back to Winning Isn't Easy. What you can learn from Natalie Merchant and getting ERISA disability benefits for spinal degeneration with OPLL. Natalie Merchant is an American singer-songwriter known for her work with the band 10,000 Maniacs, as well as her own long-standing solo career, during which she has produced such hits such as Carnival. I have to tell you, I was shocked to learn that she had been diagnosed with spinal degeneration with ossification of the posterior longitudinal ligament, OPLL, that had impacted her career. In fact, it also almost ended her brilliant medical career. I had never really heard of OPLL, so let's take apart each of these words so that we have a better understanding of the nature of the disease. Now, we all know what a ligament is. It's that soft tissue that connects and supports the bones of the joints. You'll often hear of an athlete tearing a ligament. There are ligaments in different parts of your body, and some are longitudinal. You may have heard that term in geography or even in math class. Longitudinal means that something travels lengthwise, like the ligaments that run up and down your spine. Now, of course, everybody knows what the word posterior means, right? How about ossification? That's the process of changing something into a bony-like substance or bone. So let's kind of make sense of this diagnosis. Let's take it apart. Your posterior longitudinal ligament connects and stabilizes the bones of your spinal column that run the entire length of your spine. It runs from your neck all the way down to your sacrum on both sides of the spine. The OPLL is attached to the spinal cord. So what happens in OPLL is that the posterior longitudinal ligament becomes thicker and less flexible. It most often occurs in the cervical spine, and that means that you might have difficulties turning your head side to side. It can also cause tingling and numbness into your hands. If you're experiencing this in your lower spine, that might mean difficulty walking, difficulty with balance, or even bladder control. Now, as the symptoms progress, your ability to work, or in Natalie Merchant's case, have a singing career, might make it impossible to tour. She underwent spine surgery because, in her own words, of her unendurable pain. As a post-operative complication, she wasn't able to sing for over 10 months. Wow. Now, if she had an ERISA disability insurance policy or an individual disability policy, she could have filed a claim for benefits. And I will tell you that disability carriers are always in the business of either denying or terminating benefits. And that begins, again, in medical records. So if you have an OPLL disability claim, the carrier is going to get your medical records and they're going to look at the history of your symptoms. Now, OPLL is generally not noticeable until you have mild pain, tingling, and numbness in your hands, or a funny sensation called dysesthesia. It's an abnormal sense of touch. Now, as the disease progresses, the symptoms become more severe as the ligament thickens and squeezes the spinal cord. This can produce myelopathy and a compression of the nerve root. It's this slow nature of OPLL that can cause difficulty in getting disability benefits. Why is that? Well, disability carriers take the, well, you worked yesterday, but you can't work today approach. What's changed? And the disability carrier is going to be looking for some very specific things in medical records. And I really think it's important that you're giving a very accurate and thorough history, even if you don't know the diagnosis, even though you may not know that ultimately you have a disability claim, because it is this information that I think helps doctors make a diagnosis, but it helps the disability carrier understand not only the progressive nature of your symptoms, but how those symptoms impact your ability to function. So what are they looking for? They're looking for a history and a timeline of your symptoms. They want to know how those symptoms impacted your functionality as the symptoms progressed. So in Natalie Merchant's case, she may have had difficulty standing, difficulty using her upper extremities, difficulty singing, difficulties with just the things that she does as an artist. Just think about the functional problems she would have with just activities of daily living. Now, they're also going to be interested in reading in your medical records about what has changed about those symptoms that has made you unable to do your own occupation. And they want to understand the nature of the treatment. Now, I talked a little bit about the treatment, and generally it does require surgery. They're going to want to understand the progression of the symptoms, at what point you became surgical, if you had the surgery, and your response to the surgery. Now, the other question they really want to know the answer to is, why can't you work regardless of all the treatments you've had? So, for example, in an OPLL case, your symptoms may have started mild and you've responded well to pain medication, anti-inflammatories, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and maybe even topical opioids. But as the OPLL progressed, your symptoms may have become more severe. So now your situation is you've got pain, you got tingling and numbness in the hands, and it makes it difficult to do even the simplest of things like buttoning buttons or pulling up a zipper. Hopefully you can see that it's crucial that your medical records document not only the diagnosis, but the symptoms and how those symptoms have progressed to the point where you can't perform your own occupational duties or those of any other occupation. It's the documentation of the progression of your symptoms, the increased and progressive restrictions and limitations, the limitations that have impacted your ability to do some or all of the material and substantial duties of your own occupation, or have impaired your ability at any occupation stage to do even sedentary employment. That documentation can make or break your claim. Now, OPLL is a rare disease, and I will tell you that disability carriers don't see many claims, and as a result, they may not understand the disabling impact on a policyholder. It's the complications, the progressive nature of the symptoms, and the dysfunction in your medical records. It's also important that you are getting statements from your doctor, statements from family or friends, but it's also important that when you're filling out activity of daily living forms that the carrier wants you to complete, that you're not giving absolute answers, because there's really nothing, in my view, absolute about OPLL. It's a progressive condition. So you want to document your symptoms on a progressive nature and don't minimize your symptoms, but on the other hand, don't exaggerate. In other words, don't say I can't do that or I never do that. Talk about how it's become progressively difficult. For example, maybe to stand for 30 minutes, and how now you can't even stand for 5 minutes, or how you have difficulty using your upper extremities when before you could sit at a computer for 8 hours, and now as the symptoms have progressed, your ability to sit and use that computer has declined from 8 hours to maybe 1 hour, but over time. And you want to explain that in the context of your activities of daily living. It might be that from a personal basis, you have difficulty standing at the sink to cook a meal, or you have difficulty standing and folding laundry, or you have difficulty manipulating things with your hands. So you want to, again, explain the symptoms, the progression of the symptoms, and the functionality, and be consistent with what's in your medical records. You're going to be asked to complete these activity of daily living forms on a regular basis. So you should go back and look at what you said in the last couple, and then think about whether there has been a progression of your symptoms, and explain in that next new activity of daily living form the progression of your symptoms and the impact it's had on your functionality. Reflecting, I think Natalie Merchant's album, Keeping Your Courage, really is a testament to her courage and a message of hope to those with OPLL, and a message of hope to those who are disabled. Now, again, in reviewing the medical records, the disability carrier is going to be looking for the objective diagnosis of the condition. And many times the policy will require not only an objective basis of a diagnosis, but that you're getting reasonable and appropriate medical care as a condition to getting and keeping your benefits. So the carrier is going to be wanting to look at the medical records for things like x-rays. They're going to see whether or not there are any bony abnormalities in your spine. You might have undergone what's called a dynamic x-ray that will help show any abnormal or excessive movement or instability in the spine, be it in your neck or your low back. They're also going to be looking for a CT scan or an MRI. That's a form of imaging that uses a combination of x-rays and computer technology to allow visualization of your bones, muscles, fat, and organs. On the other hand, an MRI uses radio waves to create an image. Either way, your physician can then look at the results and determine the thickness of the posterior longitudinal ligament and any encroachment or pressure. And I will tell you, the disability carrier is going to want to see multiple scans to look at the progression of the thickening. Sometimes doctors, the peer-reviewed doctors, the carriers will have review a file, will cherry pick the lack of that progression or the significance of that progression. You can expect that they will want to see an EMG or nerve conduction study test if you're having complaints of tingling and numbness, particularly in your hands. You will also be expected to undergo testing to confirm any nerve impingement that will result in more severe restrictions and limitations. Now, they're also going to ultimately be looking at your medical records to determine your level of functionality. Your doctor is going to be asked to complete attending physician statement forms that comment on the restrictions and limitations. Don't be surprised if the carrier's physicians disagree with the diagnosis or the extent and nature of your restrictions and limitations. And once again, it's going to be those well-developed medical records and supportive diagnostic studies that will make all the difference in getting your benefits. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. We've covered some unusual and unique diseases. The disability carrier's approach to disability claims is fairly similar, regardless of the nature of your disabling condition. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like our page, leave a review, and share it with your family or friends. And subscribe to this podcast. That way you'll be notified every time a new episode comes out. Let's see you next week, all right? Please tune in to the next episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Thanks.